Welcome back to Youth Lesson 2. Remember, our learning intention is to learn about contrast and to practice using inference. And we're going to use inference to explain what's happening in the story and explain contrast between the characters. So, starting with inference, right? Inference is using clues to work out what something is, right? If somebody implies something, they are leaving little clues, they're not saying something explicitly. And if you infer from that, that is you guessing the meaning. Now, it's something you've been doing for almost your entire life. You were taught to infer at a very, very young age. But that was a very long time ago, probably by a show like Blue's Clues, or just the fact that you're constantly guessing things, okay? It's as simple as when someone is frowning, you can guess that they're angry or upset at you for something, right? So now I want us to think about what can we infer about the setting of this text. Now, I kind of gave a little bit of a clue about something that I think about it through the way I read it, through the accents that I gave the characters, but I want us to think about the place it's set. Now, we're told explicitly that it's in the countryside at the start, right? If you were very eagle-eyed, right in the second paragraph, we're told this was out in the country. But there are other ways that we know this through inference. So I want to have a think about the when and the where this story might be set using these context clues. So in a second, the task is going to scoot out of the way. I want you to pause the video and use these quotations to try and work out when and where the story might be set using these context clues. Okay, so here are some of my answers, right? Here's some thinking that I had. Slim, calling someone slim is a bit of an Americanism. We don't tend to call people, or particularly boys who are skinny, slim in this country. That's quite an American phrase. Pebbles against the window tells us that it's old-fashioned, that they're not texting each other, right? Which we would do now. If you were going to wake up early and try and wake your friend up early, you'd probably stand outside their window and text them, not throw pebbles against their window. It's a concrete road, so it's not a very, very long time ago. There is circus with animals, which is quite old-fashioned. There's a barn, so we know it's the country. Obviously we were told that, but it's backed up by inference as well. Canvas, again, suggests old. It's not a tarpaulin, it's not a plastic tarp thrown over the cage. A cage tells us that it's the past as well. Most people in the future, you tend to put things in perspex boxes, and when you see things set in the future, maybe it's laser cage, but it's not. It's just a normal bird cage in a barn. When Red exclaims, "Holy smokes!" that's an Americanism, and it's very old-fashioned. Most of us don't say "holy smokes" when we're surprised anymore. So, using a little bit of detective work and a little bit of inference, I came to the conclusion here that this is probably set in America because of the couple of Americanisms that we've had, and also that it's somewhere between 1858 and the 1990s. And I made that inference based on 1858 was when the concrete was first used to build roads, and the 1990s are around when teenagers started getting mobile phones. So maybe by the mid to late 1990s, early 2000s, maybe these guys would have had phones. I want us to think about characters now. So thinking about Red and Slim, because those are the characters that we've been introduced to so far. What inferences can we make about Red and Slim? So I've pulled out some quotations here from Red that I think are really helpful in getting to know some little things about his character. So we've got "maybe I'll tell you and maybe I won't, I don't know yet." We've got "under his iron control." Red was watching out of the corner of his eyes again. Red grew argumentative. Red affected scornful laughter. Red whirled at him, strange and intense. There was no doubt in Red's voice. Holy smokes, I wouldn't go 5 steps to look at acrobats. And Red looked annoyed. So what I want us to do is analyse these a little bit to see what we can infer about Red's character. So I'm going to take one as an example. So I'm going to choose "maybe I'll tell you and maybe I won't, I don't know yet." So let's have a look at that one first. I've got it written out here on my nice whiteboard, and I'm choosing the word maybe. So I'm selecting the word maybe because I think that tells us a lot. It's repeated. And maybe suggests that he's unsure of himself. So I can write down maybe suggests indecision, right? He's not totally sure of everything that he's going to do. He's saying it out loud. This is a quotation of something that he says in dialogue, so he's saying it out loud. And this tells us that he doesn't mind tormenting Slim. He's deciding whether or not to let him in on a secret, but he's telling him that he's deciding that. That's not very nice. He doesn't really care about Slim's feelings. And then lastly, I want to be thinking about, he gets to choose. He gets to decide whether or not Slim gets in on the secret. So he holds power, and he likes letting Slim know that. So he's telling him about it. And I want you to choose 2 for yourself and analyse them fully. So take a little piece of paper, choose 2 of the quotations on this slide, and decide, and do the same that I've done. Analyse them, take out the word choice, explain what the word choice tells us about Red as a character. Right, we've had a look at Red, so now it's time to have a little bit of a think about our second character in this chapter, which is Slim. So I've done the same for Slim. We've got all of the quotations that I think show a lot about him, and I've got them written out. So he felt proud at being allowed entrance into this private world. Slim had never slept through a thunderstorm. Slim had never seen it so, but he nodded. Slim felt the doors of the new private world closing on him, and astronomy became a thing of dead stars and black, empty space. He said placatingly, "A circus would be more fun." Slim stepped back a bit. Slim thought desperately. He wanted to give the right answer. Slim stopped in his tracks. He tried to make his words sound casual. "Watch out," said Slim in agony. So now I want us to take these and have a look at analysing one of them. I think you can tell which one I've done because I've already put a strike through it and I can't work out how to get rid of that. So I'm going to take Slim never slept through a thunderstorm, and I'm going to analyse it for you, and then you're going to have a go at 2 for yourself. So here we are back to the whiteboard. Slim had never slept through a thunderstorm, so I think the most important word here is never, right? Never slept through a thunderstorm tells me a lot about Slim. It suggests that he is a very light sleeper, that he's nervous, right? He's never slept through a thunderstorm. He knows that. He's aware that every thunderstorm that's ever happened, he's been awake for, because he's a stressed person, right? So he's a light sleeper, he's nervous. So that's what I get from that. And I want you to take a couple, choose 2, copy them down, and analyse them for yourself the same way you've done with 2 for Red. So just choose any 2 that you think that stands out. I can tell a lot about the character from that. Underline the words that tell you that information and explain what they tell me. So choose any 2 now, pause the video, and give that a go. And I want to be thinking about contrast. So what is contrast? We have 2 extremely different characters here. Slim and Red are very different from each other. I think it's really clear just from reading those quotations how different their characters are. So contrast is when 2 things that are very different are brought close together, right? If you have something white and something black and they're at opposite ends of the room, they might seem like a sort of odd shade of grey, but when they're brought next to each other, you can very, very clearly see the difference. And Slim and Red are very different characters brought together in a story to show just how different they are. Okay, we've got one final task to do, and it's thinking about the contrast between these characters. I want you to draw Red and Slim and then label them with everything we've learned. Just 1 or 2 words. It doesn't have to be a big load of writing. It just has to be something like Red is confident and Slim is nervous. Things like that. Just little pieces of information that we've learned through our inference. Right, we've come to the end, and now we need to work out how successful we've been. So look back at our learning intention. It was to learn about contrast and to practice inference. And we will have been successful if we can use inference to explain what is happening in the story and explain the contrast between the characters. So if you successfully inferred about the setting and about the characters through analysis of language, and you've now got a nice picture showing the contrast between Slim and Red and the differences between their characters, then you can give yourself a green for today, and we've made it to the end. It's really hard to know how to sign off these video lessons. I really want to say like and subscribe, or that I'm sponsored by NordVPN, but I know that's not true. So, bye! See you next lesson!